Ciao, jewelry making friends. Welcome to my work table. I am really having fun because I have earlier today just finished unboxing the 2 subscription boxes from the Czech Republic. The company is called KRAFTIKA, and they have one box called the Czech Beads Exclusive, and then they have one box called Bohem Style. The Bohem Style box every month comes with all of the ingredients for 2 projects and a link to a video tutorial step by step to make that project. And so far what I've seen, it's lovely. I can pop a picture up of what the project is for May with that box. But if you've been on my channel for more than 5 seconds, you know that I like to do my own thing. So I have kind of combined the beads from both boxes plus gone shopping in my stash. And I have 3 projects going on my mat today. I really love these beads. The Czech beads are just so quality. They feel so good. The shapes are so stunning. So I've been having fun trying to get ready to sort of share what I'm working on. So the first thing that I'll show you is this really sweet little pair of earrings with a bit of chain. I have, if you can see, I'm alternated gold and copper from the bottom to the top of this sweet little earring. It has a lot of movement. It's dainty. It's wearable. This is a gold filled ear wire. I try to keep some of these on hand, and a little length of the chain that came in the box, and the beads and the star, and I just added in one of my own little coated ball head pins. It's got an anti-tarnish coating on it. So let's make the other one together really quickly. This is a super easy project. I just took one of the head pins that I had with the anti-tarnish coating and one of those beautiful little Czech glass stars, and I strung on 2 of those O-rings in the gold, and then the little 3mm Czech glass bead, and then the little 2mm gold Czech glass bead. And I use my 1.5mm 1-step looper for projects like this, especially like earrings or anything like that where I need things to match, because my loops will be totally perfect and exactly the same size. So this is Czech glass, so I just want to pull those beads away from the jaw of that plier just like a millimeter and close it very slowly. It makes a nice clean cut, and then as I'm closing the tool, before I close it all the way, I just want to pull that wire down away from the jaw of the tool, and that centers my loop on the wire, but it also gets my beautiful glass beads out of the way of the jaw of the tool. And when I take it off, let me put my hand behind it. When I take it off, I have like this perfect simple loop, and it is identical to the one on the other earring. So I love that. So I was going to show you, I didn't want to busy up my work mat, so on this side I have my little artist palette with some of the beads that I unboxed this morning, some of the ones I just left them out that I thought I would be working with. So I can link my unboxing video underneath this video if you want like a rundown of all the beads that were in the 2 boxes this month and the information on it. So what I did here is 8 little links of the chain that came in the box. I'm just going to use that scrap of my head pin and put that in here and get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to cut right there. I tend to count twice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. And then right where my thumb is, move the link I don't want to cut, and I'm just going to snip that link. And I have my 8 links for my second earring and a nice little piece of chain left over for another project. I save even the tiniest little lengths of chain because they can be turned into lovely earrings. And I even considered on these earrings to do several lengths and add a bunch of different stars, because there were plenty of stars in the box, but I tend to lean minimalist, and I'm really making these for myself. So I decided to just do 1 drop on the chain, and it's this simple. I'm going to open that simple loop and just thread on the last link of the chain, close that simple loop really well, work hard a little bit, and then these little gold filled ear wires are really, really easy. I'm just going to very gently just move that little thing to the side, the little ball, not the little thing. And I'm just going to come from the back of the ear wire and thread on my last link of chain right into position, and make sure that this is closed really well right up against the earring. Gently, very gently, and just make sure it's straight. Not happy with that closure. Go again. And I'll just test to make sure that yes, my chain is in place. And that is like a 3-minute pair of earrings that are just beautiful. And you see I mixed evenly the gold and the copper up the design, and that's what's going to happen on my 2 bracelets that I've been working on as well, because I kind of am looking at this as a set where I might be able to wear these together or separate them. And you know, for me, one of our viewers, I think it was Grandma Rose, she called me the bracelet queen, and I guess I kind of am. I really love bracelets, and when I'm making a bracelet, I feel like I'm making it for myself, because when we wear bracelets, we see them. We enjoy every single bead and the design. When we embellish ourselves with necklaces and earrings, that's really for other people looking at us. And I also live in a hot climate, so no matter how hot it is, I can always wear a bracelet and still be comfortable, and earrings as well. I never go out without earrings. So for me, these are like my go-to wearable love, love, love projects. And the reason I was showing you this is almost all Czech glass on this bracelet that I made this week, and I love it so much. I have been wearing this bracelet like crazy, and so I am doing a similar design with different beads, and I wish you guys were sitting here with me, because I have gone into my stash and I have one Czech glass button with a little shank on the back that I thought went beautifully with the colors, but I also have this copper backed little crystal button, and I literally cannot decide. I have been looking at these since early this morning, and I cannot decide which button I want to use. So I thought I put out a few copper crystal rondelle spacers. Let me take this little piece of wire, because I thought if I do decide to do the crystal button, that maybe adding in a little bit of bling with this crystal copper rondelle spacer might be a good thing. I've also added, I have some different sizes of gold disc spacers to play with. So I think when I start stringing this, I'll figure it out. But I do wish you guys were here sitting with me, telling me which one you love the best. So I also have a few little saved out beads for a little dangling charm for this bracelet. And then on this design, I have this little strand. They were $5. I bought these at the Intergalactic Bead Show last weekend. They are Czech glass, and they have a pretty large hole. Let me cut this strand open, and let's test it, because my idea was to do my coordinating bracelet out of leather. Well, actually a mix of leather and wire. So let's see if it's going to work. I love these, and I love this. This is that silk. This is that Czech glass silk finish on a bead. I don't know how, I never know how well the camera is showing you what I'm seeing with my eye in person, but these beads are just stunning, and they do have a little bit larger hole where a lot of the Czech glass beads, like my 1mm leather, would not fit through any of that. So that's part of why I went into my stash, is to see if I could design a leather bracelet. I also had these in my stash, and I love the way this bead fits inside of that, but I'm going to do something a little bit interesting. And then I do plan to have some baubles hanging off of this. So I took the flowers that were from the Czech Beads Exclusive box, and some of those little glass matte gold O-rings, a copper ball head pin, and the teeny tiniest little gold flower bead cap that I had in my stash, just to add a lot of interest to this little bauble. And I saved the third one to do with you, but it is exactly what I just did. I just took a copper ball head pin, and I took one of, let me move it out, one of those little O beads, and put it right in the middle of that little cup flower, and then this teeny tiny little sort of flower bead cap. And I'm going to do that exact same thing I'm just going to use my 1.5 millimeter one-step looper. I gently close the tool. This is glass and this is glass, and so even though I have a spacer bead here, I want to be super careful not to close this tool all the way until I am certain that there's no pressure at all on my beads. And you know, if you're ever using this and you feel like to close it all the way would create pressure, then stop, because you can finish closing that loop with your pliers. I got a pretty perfect loop. I did back off a little bit just to make sure I don't damage my beads, especially that little gold O-ring, because it is really thin and beautiful. But isn't that lovely? I mean, what a lovely little component, quick and easy. And I've made 2 others. And so I have kind of a cool plan, but before I go any further with this, let me move these, because these are for that bracelet. And I have this 1 millimeter cobalt blue leather cord. I think that I got this from Leather Cord USA. It's an Etsy shop, but I honestly don't remember, and they don't put it, whoever I bought this from did not put it on their labels. If you are a leather purchaser, maybe you recognize this, and if you do, and you could leave it in the comments for others, because I always get questions. If I don't link something, I always get questions about where I got a thing. So I wish I remembered and I could share that, but I do want to do some knots, so I have not cut my length yet. And before I cut it, I just want to do my little test and see. Look, it goes through that beautiful bead. I don't even know what this shape is. When I saw it, like initially I wanted to say it's a bicone, but it's really not a bicone. But I just love this pink silk finish on this bead. I just think it's stunning. It's kind of like pearlescent, but it is glass. So I love that. The leather cord would not need to go through. I know that it's not going to go through this bead. I'll check, but I know it won't. So I have a plan for that too. So let me take, since I'm not exactly sure how many knots I want to do, and I will be mixing gold and copper. So let's see. I know I'll be putting some of these. My leather cord fits through all of that. Oh, and I also am going to be using a little bit of copper chain. I'm going to mix that in. I did not cut my length yet on this either, because I don't want to waste lengths. These are, you're not able to open these. So when I decide on a length, I have to make a cut and lose a link. So I also have just a little plain toggle clasp, which I think that I will be using that. So I need a 7-inch bracelet, and I think I am going to cut about 14 inches, maybe 15 inches. I don't like to run short when I'm working on a piece. And if I have little bits of leather left over, they make really pretty earrings. I mean, they make really pretty little drops. So I'm just going to cut around 15 inches of this leather. I'll do an angled cut since I plan to do some stringing. And this other bracelet, I'm bouncing between the two. This one is going to be a pretty straightforward stringing project, I think. And I think my questions about my pattern and my button will get answered once I start working on the pattern. But for this one, I am going to start with a little piece of 20 gauge anti-tarnish copper wire. And on this one, I'm going to go up to my 2¼ millimeter one-step looper. Just put my wire in there, let the tool make that nice clean blunt cut for me, and then I'm going to pull that wire back, smooth and straighten it. It's all centered, although this loop is not super important because this loop is going to be hidden and inside of this. And my plan is to tie my leather right onto this loop. And let's see if I want to trim the knot away. And I also will be putting glue on this knot because this is a quite integral, serious connection point. Get my plier to help me. Pull that nice and tight. And let me get a little bit of GS Hypo Cement for this knot. I need to do this now because it's going to be hidden and I won't be able to access it once I start assembling this design. So let me just put a little. I also get questions about glue, and I've tried to answer, but while I'm doing this, I'll talk about that. I had someone recently say she keeps the gel control super glue on her work table, and did she need the GS Hypo Cement? The difference is the GS Hypo Cement glue, it does not dry crunchy hard. It dries with flexibility when it dries, and the super glue dries like super hard. So on leather or polyester or waxed linen or anything that you still want to have a little movement and want it to be malleable, the GS Hypo Cement is really good for that. So that's the difference between the glue. I keep them both on my work table. And so now my plan is to run this through here. So that is now hidden inside. And I was thinking that I can either string this right on. I haven't really worked this out. I did not do a sketch of this design. I can either string these on right here, or I can make a loop and add them to the loop. I have not really decided, to be honest. I'm just going to take a look. Isn't that pretty? That is so beautiful. So I could make my loop and just let them go around, but I don't know if I would want to put some beads in between at the base. I kind of like the gold on the base. I just have not decided. But you know, I think I will put a loop here. Well, the other thing I need to look at, I was wanting to use this bead, and I was thinking I might do it just like that. Oh yeah, that is so pretty. I love that. That's just making me smile. Okay, I think that's the executive decision. I'm going to put a loop right here, and I think I will come back with my 2 1/4 one-step looper and just get a nice, perfect, simple loop in there. So as I always say, you know, just, I don't know if you can see, but that is backed off about 1 millimeter. So when let me reposition my hand. When I close the tool, I am not putting any stress on my bead. I can just pull it back away from the jaw of the plier. I don't know why, but on the 2 1/4 one-step looper, my loop always has to be closed. I'm gonna probably open this loop again when I go to finish that end of my bracelet, but that's my little start. That is my little start of this bracelet, and now I am planning to string these beautiful little beads on here. And I do want, look at that, isn't that so pretty? Now when this is on the wrist, these little flowers will stay, they'll stay upright. Your body will hold them up, so it's going to look like that. So now what I need to decide is if I want to do a knot in between each of these beads, or if I want to do, like, I'm thinking a copper crystal rondelle spacer to add a little sparkle to this particular piece. And I want to keep alternating gold and copper. That is my plan. The copper beads do not fit on none of the copper beads from the box, the little spacer beads, they don't fit on 1 millimeter leather. So that's why I went into my stash. Oh wow, that is so pretty. That is so beautiful. So maybe I will do a copper. I would really like to have another bead for here that will go. Let me pause and go into my stash and look for another bead of some sort to go here that has a large enough hole to go over the 1 millimeter leather. That's going to be my plan, and then I'll be knotting in between, so you'll be able to see the blue leather in between. So I'm going to just pause and go shopping in my supplies, and I'll be right back. I went through my own stash, and I did find this crystal bead which matches the little blue disc beads that were in the box in color perfectly. It is that same pop of color, but I don't know. I am just not feeling it. I had some other things that I would have paid $1,000,000 if this little Czech glass bicone would fit on my 1mm leather, but it does not. So I think, executive decision, I think that I'm going to do my sections this way with this gold bead and let my knots be my blue. And I'm going to complete my length with the copper chain. I think that's what I'm going to do, is just do, I'll check at 3 sections and see. So I'm just doing overhand knots in my leather, and I'm getting them, just scooting them down with my finger to the bead. And I decided that because of the scale of these beads and the scale of this bead cap and my little cluster here, that a single knot, can you see the difference? A single knot just looked too small to me. So I am doing a knot and then another knot on top of that one to make it nice and chunky, and like just the scale of the knots to coincide with the things that I'm stringing. And you know, that's like, I don't know, the leather is the spacer in this case. I mean, I've ended up like opting for the leather to actually be the spacer, and I think I'm going to continue like that with these beautiful Czech glass, what do we call these? Bicones, I guess. It's the closest thing that I can think. And I'm going to alternate again my copper and my gold all the way down, all the way through the length of this piece. With one of those gold disc spacers, because again I'm alternating gold and copper through the entire length of my bracelet, and I'm going to tie on my copper chain now at this point. So, and you know what else I like to do? I have my ruler here, but when I get a bracelet just perfect, I like to use that as my measurement, and I got this bracelet absolutely perfect. I have worn this non-stop since I made it. I just love this. So I'm going to just lay this bracelet out here as kind of my guideline, and I'm going to come right on this end. Let me just like pull everything and see how it's going to land. My knots are okay, and I'm going to, before I cut my chain, left it in the bag here so that it won't be too tangly, and I'm just going to put my leather right through onto that copper chain. It's nice to have a solid link that you can't open. It's a solid ring for tying on like this, because you don't have to worry about it coming, that opening, you know, coming open within the leather slipping out. And just for security, I'm going to go through that link one more time and loop it. And when I get this all done, I will also put a little bit of that GS Hypo Cement glue here. And you know, I sometimes will string beads. I'm going to let that little scrap of leather hang out because I may want to string some beads on it. I never really know about that until I see the bracelet all done. So I can set these extra beads aside. I see earrings in my future. And so now I can just kind of play with my length. Oh, I did want to do one more thing. I did want to, that one's got a pretty large hole. I wanted to have a little component over here. I wonder how my length will be. Let's check. Let me play a little bit. I will cut my 4th link here, and I have some really super heavy duty big cutters here for these links. And okay, you can set that aside. So I have my little chain added on, and I really would like to have one of these components on this end, and I think I can make that work. So I have that tiny little piece of gold wire, and not gold wire, copper wire, and I'm going to use my 1.5 or 2.25 millimeter one-step looper. And if you can see, like, I can skip the step of cutting a nice blunt cut on my wire, because the one-step looper does that for me all in one shot. It cuts that little I don't even know where it went, but it gives me a nice blunt cut, and it makes the loop, wraps it around the mandrel, and then I can just like smooth and straighten, and I have this perfect little loop. And then I always do this, but you're going to open, most of the time you're going to open and close simple loops again anyway. So I'm just going to feed on this last little bead. I like to do my loops in opposite directions. I don't know why. It's just a habit that I got into. And then I'm just going to make sure that my bead is not right on the jaw of the plier, so there's no stress on that beautiful little bead. And if I need to, let me grab my extra pair of pliers. If I need to, it's pretty straight, but I can use my second pair of pliers to line up those loops. And now I can connect. Just add that right onto this end. Work harden, and I think I made a 2.25 inch loop. I'm going to try this without a jump ring. I'm going to try adding my open part of my toggle right directly to that last simple loop. If I need to go back and open it up and add in a jump ring, I will do that, but I always like to try the simple way first. And this is just looking so beautiful and so interesting. And then on this side, I'm messing up my little design that I did here. On this side, I do need a jump ring for the toggle. And you know, I think I'm actually going to do a gold jump ring. Again, just because I've interspersed gold and copper from the center of my flowers all the way down. And I happen to have these gold filled jump rings, and I'm going to take out 2 and see if 2 will fit through that loop. If they will, and still move freely. I just like the look of the double jump ring. So I'm going to try. We'll see what it looks like. The gold and copper, it's very purposefully mixed throughout the piece. That is just beautiful. And yeah, it moves really nicely. And what I can do, I feel like it might be too long. I don't know. What I can do is even, as everybody knows, you cannot clasp a bracelet when the camera is rolling. But what I can do is take and move my toggle down a little bit, although it's not bad. It's pretty good, actually. Oh, that is so pretty. I love that. I just have to make some decisions if I want to add like beads onto the leather. I have an idea with my scrap piece of leather. Let me bring in my GS Hypo Cement again, and I want to put a little glue on both sides of this final knot. It dries clear and you don't need much, but it just keeps the knot from becoming loose and opening up as you pull on it and, you know, put your clasp in and out. And it dries pretty quickly. I'll put a little bit right there. I see a little space for glue. Okay. And I have an idea. I'm going to trim this. Made. I really trimmed my leather from this end and removed one link to make this more appropriate size. And I'm going to come right here and tie this. Do you guys hear? I don't know if my microphone is picking it up, but there is a giant frog on my windowsill and he is so noisy. Oh my goodness, he's so loud. It's raining and he is very noisy. So I'm just going to tie my leather right onto that simple loop just above it. Let me get my pliers so I can get it nice and tight. And I'm going to take a gold-filled spacer bead. And I think this will add that little bit of gold next to the copper. Let's see if it goes through. Yes, it does. So I'm just going to tie a little knot. I'm just using the rest of my leather, so it's a little short, but if you're trying to use up supplies like this, you can use your pliers kind of as tweezers and get your knot in there nice and tight. And on these knots on the end, I will also put a little bit of GS Hypo cement. And I just want it to be like a tassel, so I'm going to pull it together. I just love it. I do want to trim these a tiny bit too. A little bit of an angled cut here while it's drying. And if you have leather like this that's dark and you cut it and you can see this one is not white on the inside, but well, it is a little bit, but you can take a Sharpie marker. I keep one right on the end of my work table. Whoops, wrong one. My other one. I keep one right here, and you can just take a Sharpie marker and just darken so that when you have a cut piece of leather, it's just a detail, but it gives quality to your work. So wherever you've made a leather cut, I think I had one here. See, right there where it meets up with my chain, you can just touch it with a Sharpie marker, and then that white disappears. Just a little tip. So we will set this guy aside with the earrings and let the GS Hypo cement set up. I love that. I think it's so beautiful, and I really love the mix. I love the mix of gold and copper. So pretty. Love it. Okay, this next project is a simple stringing project, and the minute that I say simple, something will go wrong. But as I said, I'm using the copper colored Soft Flex. This is the 49 strand. It's medium diameter, all-purpose bead stringing wire. I love this, and what I love about it is how soft this is, and it is so malleable and so bendable, and I just love it. I am also going to be using the Soft Flex Company #2 crimp tubes in the gold filled. So I will need two. I'll need one on the end where I'm going to make a loop, and I will need one on the end when I decide which button will be the winner for this bracelet. So I'll start off, let me just put these in my little I'll set them here. I'm going to start off with these pinch beads, making a loop. Let me also get a little bead bug. This is what jewelry magnets are good for, you guys. This is in a little drawer on my little workbench, and every single one of my bead bugs attached itself to this magnet. I love magnets. I'm just going to put a stopper on this end, and I think that I am going to play. Let me put my dish a little bit closer here. I think I am going to play with a pinch bead. I haven't tried this yet, but a pinch bead and one of these little O-rings. I'm going to continue that same gold copper mix. If you notice, like this turquoise flower has a copper wash, but the little dragonfly bead has a gold embossed wash, so I'm going to continue with that, I think. Okay, I'm going to stop and just check. That is obviously not, I don't know which button I want to use, you guys. I'm so torn. Oh, that's really pretty, but obviously it's, my loop has to be bigger. Okay, I have decided this one is the winner. Okay, so I have my little loop here, and I can take my little bead stopper off, and now I am going to thread on my number 2 crimp tube onto both strands of the bead wire. That is so beautiful. You see, oh, perfect. That is going to be perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to use my magical crimping plier. Let me switch hands here. Put my other little bracelet over there and just carefully want to fit that crimp tube into the notch right in the middle. Before I close down, I want to make sure I'm in the middle and snuggled up. I can pull my loop, make sure there's no unwanted gaps in my loop. Whoops, I just bumped it. There we go. And close the plier nice and tight. So I have the 4 corners pinched, and now I'm going to go to the side 90 degrees, opposite direction. Carefully make sure I'm not chomping down on any of my beads, and that does not feel like it's at the right, there we go. And now I'm just going to close again and just keep rotating my plier all the way around 6 or 7 or 8 times, just until I don't feel that it's doing, until it feels like I'm just opening and closing it on air. That's when I know, if there's no resistance, that's when I know that it has turned the tube into a little bead. It's starting to feel good, and that's what we have. That is beautiful. I love that plier. And so my little loop for my closure is done, and now I can start my pattern. And I do want to let me put a few of these on the beading mat. I do want to use those in my stringing. And let's see, I might even start off with, oh, I also want to make sure that I put a little bit of copper in this too. Let's see. These have the tiniest holes. I'm not sure that the 2 wires, I really like to fit my second wire, but it does not want to go. I already can see that it doesn't want to go. So maybe I will do one of these. Maybe start out with 3 of these. For me, this is one of the just joys of making jewelry, is to sit and do pattern play. I just love that. Look how cool that is. So with those tiny little O-rings, I am able to fit both wires through, so that is a great little start. I always think it looks prettier to trim your wire down here away from the closure. It just looks a lot prettier to me. That is beautiful. And let's see, I'll do a copper. Do Do I want copper or gold? Let's see. Love these disc beads, and what I was thinking is to create almost like,
oh, that's beautiful,
a single bead with the discs and these little small O-rings in between. Didn't try it yet, but I think it's going to be really pretty. Oh, that is beautiful. Look at that. So pretty. I think what I'm going to do is take one of these off and go back to this bead and then my table cut turquoise bead. And then I'm going to go back to the discs, create that same component. So I have come to the end of my stringing, and I think this is beautiful. It's so interesting, a little bit eclectic. I have decided, I've really bonded with the idea of this crystal copper, and I've ended with 3 of those little O-rings as well as one of those pink check glass rounds, and I just love this. I think it's so unique. So I'm going to thread on that number 2 crimp tube and then my clasp, and then make this loop, come right back through that crimp tube, and I already know that I can fit through those O-rings if I can find the center of them. One more. And I'm going to do the same thing on this end. I'm going to pull this nice and tight. There we go. Just snuggle those beads up. But before I crimp, I want to just make a nice little circle and just check everything, make sure that I have my proper length, no unwanted gaps, everything is nice and loose. I really love the way this turned out with the sparkly button and then a little bit of the crystal in the crystal rondelle spacers. This is so pretty, really, really pretty. So I'm going to do that same thing with my magical crimping plier. Time to try it on, and then I want to decide where I am going to put the little dangle that I set aside. It's beautiful and it's perfect. And this is one of the reasons that I absolutely love my subscription boxes, and particularly these ones from the Czech Republic, because as much as I love these colors, I love these dusty pinks and the turquoise, on my own, I do not think that I would have put this nice dark denim blue in with these colors as well as this kind of dusty blue, but I love it. I love that little pop of color. I love the color blocking that was created, and I just think it is lovely. It's a gorgeous little bracelet. So I have saved out these 3 little things, and I ended up not using the 3 drops. So I don't even think I'm going to put this as my dangle because I didn't use them in my bracelet. I think I'm going to switch to these, and what else do I have that I use? Some O-rings for sure. And so let me get a head pin, and I think I'm going to switch back to beautiful one of these gold head pins. Gorgeous, gorgeous. I'm going to use my one-step looper again, and being very careful. These are tiny little glass beads, so for me that is much too close. I want to back my little stack of beads off the jaw of that plier at least a millimeter. There we go. And close it slowly. Make sure that all your beads are out of the way if you're using this tool. You can totally do your simple loops with your pliers, but I love the consistency and the perfection of the loops that I get with that tool. And now I just have to decide where I want to attach this little charm. Do I want to put it there, or That's really pretty, isn't it? I love it with the blue there. I am going to do it with a jump ring. So do I want it under the button? Let's see, on this one, I did it on the loop. I was thinking, and I think I'm going to do it on the loop there. So I'm going to grab another one of my little gold-filled jump rings that I used in my earrings. I'm just going to put it right over that little, and attach that and close it really well. Crimped bead, the little gold-filled crimped bead, and it is finished. That is so pretty. I love this bracelet. I love this style of bracelet. I love how you have like so many focal beads in that, and I got a gorgeous pair of earrings, very small and petite. Let me clear away some of these things. And this bracelet, my leather should be dry now. Looks like my glue is dry. Let me just soften up this leather a little bit for my little tassel. Just give it a little tug. Look at these beautiful bracelets. They're one-of-a-kind artisan pieces. Just beautiful, beautiful. I love them. I think they are so pretty. All three pieces. I love these boxes from the Czech Republic. I'm only going to do one more thing. I'm going to come in with my Permalac. I get this from Potomac Beads, and I pretty much do this on anything like this, which is just fashion jewelry. It looks great and it's shiny right now, but it will tarnish. So I just take a few moments to brush my Permalac coating on any of my metal findings like this that will tarnish. It's easier than polishing your nails, and it just adds quality and longevity to your work. And if you like accidentally brush a bead with this, it dries totally clear. It doesn't make like a cloudy mess over the bead. I don't try to touch the beads, but I don't worry so much about getting everything coated because you know, I know that it will dry clear. And that is already dry just that quick. And I may go back and give this a second coat, and let's see, does everything here is glass or already anti-tarnish, and these are gold filled, and everything here is anti-tarnish. So those three pieces are done. I thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, that you found some inspiration. If you are interested in either one of the boxes from the Czech Republic, either the Bohem Style or the Czech Beads Exclusive, I will put the two links in the description box of this video. I'll also link my other video for this bracelet and also my unboxing. And I hope that everyone is safe and well and having fun on your beading mats, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, creative friends.